Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I don't know what time it is. So
It's
don't know what
all
day
running
it is.
together.
Doesn't matter.
Good, good. All you need to say is good.
Happy and good. I'm here with Jonathan Epstein, the proprietor of Celebrated Experiences, and we're going to be talking with him today and doing a virtual visit of Ireland and Scotland, which is very exciting for me because my geography skills are terrible. And so it makes it very challenging for me to book. So
Well,
welcome.
your job, and I always say this, the best travel advisors, Rebecca, you are certainly one of them, are people who are experts on their clients, right? Your job is to know that the kid hates milk, but she's passionate about Harry Potter, and that dad is super into architecture, but hates long days. And mom does not want fancy dining, but she really loves food, and a thousand things like that. That's your job. And then you hand that off to us, and then that's when we can make magic happen. We need to know the geography. You just need to know like their basics, and that's why I love what we do. It's
And
like
you
being a detective.
truly do. I mean, it's amazing to have partners on the ground that help with the logistics so that we can really deliver the VIP experiences that our clients are used to. And you
Sure.
guys are awesome at that.
Well, thank you. Got a great
Um,
team.
so tell me first, how's your quarantine going?
Well, quarantine is as good as can be expected. My kids are great.
You have little
Well,
kids in the house, right?
yes, and you may hear them. I've got a 3-year-old and an 11-year-old. Um, and Laura, who is a colleague of yours at Smart Flyer. She's super mom, being a travel advisor, being a great wife. So I don't know how she's doing it all. She's magical. So yeah, I think it's all going as well as possible. Our team's doing a great job. We're 100% remote now, and it's all working.
That's super.
Yeah.
Excellent. So have you developed any new skills over quarantine? Like I know some people have become master plumbers. Some people are like, I'm learning to dance, so
Wow. No, I'm perfecting the art of drinking whiskey, which I will say this, my whiskey cart, which for me it's like whiskey, it's so much whiskey, but it's definitely I'm bottles are starting to vanish and you're seeing the levels go down. Um, but it's all part of my job. Every time that I'm drinking the whiskey, it's so I can really, really be able to talk to the client about
yes, you're
this
a
distillery
professional
over that
after all.
distillery. Yeah, it's one of the best parts of my job, but no real other expertise. No.
Let's talk a little bit about, well, I was going to say Ireland and Scotland. Do people combine them or you find that most people, there's so much in each one?
100%. So one of our travel pet peeves is when people automatically combine them. They think, oh, well, we may as well just do both because they end in land, they speak English, and it doesn't sound like the way we talk English. So clearly, we should combine the itinerary because they're not connected. Like it doesn't make a lot of natural sense. And it's a little bit like saying, oh, we're going to Italy, may as well combine with Spain. So it's always a little bit weird to us. It makes for a great trip. But usually, to do either destination properly, you can easily do, if it's just a weekend, you can do 3 or 4 nights. You can go into Dublin for 3 or 4 nights, or Edinburgh, or go to a place like Glen Eagles, or Drumlin Castle, or Ashford Castle, because there's so much to do on site. And from your market, I mean, clients absolutely do that. It's a little bit like going up to Vermont for the weekend.
I guess so.
People go to JFK, they're having breakfast in Ireland. So instead of eating up all that time in traffic on a Friday driving up to Vermont, you can just sleep through that part in business class if you can afford it, and wake up and you're in Ireland. So we have trips that short, or Scotland. At the same time, the average trips that we get are kind of 5 nights would be short. It's usually a 6 to 9 night, one destination. And that would usually give you 3 or 4 stops, but you're still only seeing, a fraction of the things even in the areas that you're stopping, let alone the other entire regions of the country. To do, Scotland really well and see all the major regions would be like a 12, 16 night trip easy.
Really?
So yeah, because the Highlands, people think the Highlands is, oh, that's like going to Tuscany, but it's a huge region. It's bigger than Belgium. And it's broken up into 6 or 7 kind of sub-regions that you could go to each of these for 2 or 3 nights. No one, very few people would do that.
And
But
are they all
um,
provincial? I mean, is it mostly like you're seeing small towns, or like what's, you know?
the topography would be totally different. So let's kind of do Scotland real quick. You've got kind of this Perthshire area, which is a lot of diversity in Perthshire, but think of more rolling hills, beautiful rivers, forests, great history, historic castles, battlefields, towns, villages. Then you go to, let's say, an area like Speyside, where it's more rolling hills, small, tiny villages, lots of rivers, but it's all about whiskey. That's real hardcore whiskey country. You have the Central Highlands, where you start getting some great mountains, but still really forested in most of it. Beautiful forests, like you got Cairngorms National Park, which is the biggest national park in the UK. And it's that vibe, and you still have towns, but then you go to that West Highlands, and it's that shut your eyes and imagine Scotland. Big mountains, almost like Colorado feel to them. Snowy peaks if you're there in the fall or in the spring or early winter, or winter. But that's where you've got great big locks and huge valleys that you're driving through, and your jaw's just like, oh, you know. So it's all different types of beauty, and that area is much more remote. You can be driving on some of the most spectacular drives in the world in high season in some places and go 30 minutes without seeing a car.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then you've got Edinburgh, and then you've got Glasgow. And then you may want to go off the beaten path to a place like Ayrshire, So there's lots to do in Scotland, and we haven't even talked about Skye. So it gives you a sense of like how diverse the trip could be. And Ireland is similar. You could easily do, I mean, if you did a complete Ireland trip properly, I mean, that's like a 20 plus night trip easily.
Well, so what's like beginner Ireland, right? Because I feel like, I don't know why, I do feel that I get more requests for Ireland than Scotland.
I
Most of
think a lot of people do tend to go there on that first trip if they were going to choose. We have seen there would be more Ireland to Scotland, usually because people may know some people who are more Irish Americans. They've heard lots of feedback on it. You have a lot of clients with families, and they get a lot of Ireland, where Scotland would get a lot more couples trips. Still gets families. My gosh, Glen Eagles is like the best family hotel, I think, anywhere. That and like Ashford Castle, Dromore, like they're so great for that. But I do think you get more of that sometimes in an Ireland. And so there is, back in the day, there was a beginner Ireland, and it's what we would call the U.
Okay.
You start, I don't know, it's always reversed here. So I don't know. You start in Dublin, which is in the east, and you finish kind of in the Shannon region. Shannon's not a city. A lot of people think it's a city. It's kind of a strip of an airport, but it's a region in the west of Ireland. And you would kind of do this U, and you would, maybe start in Dublin, go down to a Kilkenny or coastal Waterford or Cork, stop there for a few nights. And just notice what I said. You could easily stop and do Kilkenny for a few days, or do Waterford area for a few days, or do Cork for a few days. But a lot of Americans are, because they don't have enough time, will maybe pick one of those spots. This is kind of the starter as it used to be.
Right.
Then they go to Kerry. County Kerry is the most visited part of Ireland outside of Dublin. It's a national park area, Killarney National Park. It's a little bit like Jackson, Wyoming. You've got this great town, and it's right on Grand Teton National Park. And you've got these great peninsula drives and Dingle Peninsula, Ring of Kerry. You could stay honestly down there for 6-7 days and not run out of things to do, similar to if you went to Yellowstone and Grand Teton.
Right.
And then you kind of finish up in the Shannon region. You've got great castle hotels up there and country houses. That's where the Cliffs of Moher are, which is probably the most photographed image in Ireland. It's 800-foot sea cliffs.
So you say that's how you used to do it. What do you think
Right.
changed that made people want to do it differently?
Roads, motorways.
Fair.
So you had to kind of find these ways to do trips where you were able to break up the drives in different places. With the motorways, and also we've been, and you know me well enough, we're disruptors. I don't like to be told that all different kinds of clients need to experience a place in the same way. That's annoying. And there are plenty of clients that don't want to spend a lot of time in their car. There are lots of clients who, as beautiful as County Kerry is, want to go to an area much more remote. They want to go to maybe Northern County Mayo, which is above where Ashford Castle is. There's incredible ruins. Actually, at the oldest, I think, megalithic farming site, like in terms of archaeological ruins in all of Europe, are in this little spot north of Ireland. It's these beautiful cliffs, and there's no one there. I mean, it's just so you get people who just want different things out of a trip. Some people want hustle and bustle and awesome pub energy and music. Well, Galway is incredible for that. And some people may not have time to do that if they do the basic U. So the beauty of Ireland for a company like ours is when you come to us with that expert knowledge on your clients and you say, oh, they really love scenic drives, or they really hate scenic drives, or they want to avoid towns at all cost, or they really want towns and they want to walk around. All of a sudden, it doesn't have to. And the biggest question we always ask is, so when we do get family trips to Scotland, they're not hitting as many of the Highland spots because it's a lot of drive time. So maybe it ends up being something like a Glen Eagles, which we talked about, so great for families. You've got Edinburgh, great energy, easy to walk around, navigate. And then maybe you pick one spot in the Highlands, a manor house, a castle type experience. And the manors and castles there would be different than the manors and castles in Ireland. They tend to be smaller, more intimate properties. But you get to have a flavor of going to a place that feels remote and wild without the kids swallowing their iPads because they just can't take that long of remote sometimes. So, but every family's different. We definitely get families that are really reflective and are readers and are not iPad generation people, and they love the remoteness and going on really long hikes and really long drives.
So talk to me about the golf, right? Because that's like, I have a lot of family clients, like my clients, family travel is sort of my number one, but I also have this like weird older man clientele. I don't know why, but I have
You're
a lot
good
of
at what
golf.
you do. They're like any client, they're demanding. They want someone who's good. You're good at what you do. They're going to reach out to you. Right.
Yeah. So my, I would say, head partners in law firms and CPA firms and things like that, they're all golf crazy. I don't really
Great.
play, but I understand that, it's a language that you speak. So
Yes.
tell me about what are bucket list golf trips like when it comes to Scotland and Ireland?
They're incredible. You've got really, for celebrated, you've got three kinds of golf trips. We get a lot of dad turning 75, and two sons and dad's brother kind of thing, or the bachelor party golf trip, the 40-year-old successful guy who wants to kind of fit into a weekend 1,000 different golf courses. So we get those kind of trips, kind of the guy's trip.
Right.
The second one would be two couples. There's a lot I mean of wives who just love golf. Now a lot of times they may not want to golf 9 out of 10 days, maybe it's 6 out of 10 days, and we can find other things to do with them with our driver guides. Sometimes it's reverse. Sometimes the wives want to play a lot and the husband may have a bum knee, and I've got to find some ruined castles for him to visit while the wives play golf. So but I think you've got the couple dynamic. And then the third is that 4 to 8 golfer, not kind of a short trip, but robust 7-8 day trip where they're just trying to play as much golf as possible, but not too golf crazy that they don't want to experience the essence of the country too. So me working in whiskey tastings, me working in kind of a cool stop to a local distillery speaking of whiskey, or it doesn't have to be all whiskey, but we've got so many different, going out on a boat trip, on off of the Dingle Peninsula, going on a hike one afternoon. There's just so much we can interweave, but that's really the essence. And man, there are so many bucket list golf courses. In Ireland, you've got Ballybunion, Waterville, Lahinch, Doonbeg. They're just so great. And obviously in Northern Ireland, you got Royal County Down, Royal Portrush. And then for each one of those, we can name 3 amazing courses that are not as well known, don't get the crowds, are so loved by the elites in Ireland, but they almost want to keep them a secret.
Right.
And in Scotland, man, it's incredible. And some of the newer courses like Kingsbarns and Castle Stewart, where a lot of people know, oh, the Old Course or Carnoustie and Troon, but Turnberry, which we love all those courses, but there's some really amazing courses throughout the country as well that people don't think of as much.
Yeah, definitely the Old Course is my number one. That's what people always ask about, but you know.
They do, and it is really hard to get on, and it's actually can sometimes be limiting because most of the time to guarantee the tee time, you have to do a 3 or 4 night stay just in that area and play 3 or 4 of those area courses. So you may lose the opportunity to go down to Turnberry and play Turnberry and Prestwick or Troon, or go up into the Highlands and do like a Castle Stewart and a Nairn. You know, you got Royal Dornoch up there, which is a great one, which to always bring it back to whiskey, which is also near Glenmorangie Distillery or Balblair. So it's just really nice to kind of work in different things for people. The best golf trips are ones where people are adaptable and don't come in with the attitude of we have to do all 9 of these. You may hear some giggling.
Oh, I do. I do think that those golf trips are like box checker trips, though. I get that most of the people, when I have them coming to me, they're looking for like, they want to.
I think, you know, the best trips are when people have the attitude, and this is not only golf, the attitude of flexibility, and that I don't have to do all 7 of the golf courses on my list. If I get 4 of them, I just have the best time ever. Like, that's the essence of a trip.
Absolutely.
And
with Ireland and Scotland, anywhere.
Correct. That is always the best feedback, 100% of the time.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So
the reality is, if you have the budget for the driver guide, to not spend the money on someone who's teaching you and entertaining you, because the 2 best things, I mean, the best thing about an experience in Scotland, or sorry, Scotland and Ireland, are the people.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden you have someone who's with you the whole time who's hilarious and telling stories, and somehow through his stories you're learning a lot about the destination. But then there's the little secret stuff. When you're on your own and you pull into a village and you're hungry for lunch, there's 3 pubs. Which one do you pick? All of a sudden you're Googling as if those reviews matter, and for all you know, that great one, the chef left last week. But when you've got a driver guide, he knows which one is microwaving their Irish stew, or it's like a gastropub, and they know the owners, and all of a sudden that's the magic. The owner's coming over and engaging with you at the table, and you have a lifelong friend who you just met at a pub. And so that's I really think for our destinations, the driver guide really does add so much and just pulls down the stress. But 40% of the trips we do are self-drive. And I think once you're past that first or second day, and once you have the attitude of, you know, I'm not going to be able to see everything, it's more about just experiencing the destination. And if I miss something, that's okay. I think self-driving's fine.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, like you said, it's different for different people. And some people like to be adventurous and you know, be on their own and have a little bit more intimacy, just the 2 of them. But when I send people with families and they take a guide, the kids always come back with like, he was my best friend, you know. It's so nice. That
I was shaking my head because I'll get people who are families of 4 or 5 and they want to self-drive. I'm like, whoa, now we're having to get
a lot of togetherness time without a referee.
Yeah, now all of a sudden the car goes from this to this. And instead of 1 person yell at the driver, you have 3 or 4 people yelling at the driver. They have to pack really tight because minivans are different size there. It's just a lot. But sometimes we'll combine for people who really love to drive. You know, maybe the first few days we do with the driver guide, they get acclimated, and then we'll rent a car. Without a question, I was so surprised by fill in the blank. I will bet 100% of clients. It's so funny. Whenever we get a feedback, I was so surprised by how great the food was. And it teaches you a lesson. Like, you know, if your food is not awesome for decades, like that reputation can stick.
No doubt.
And so the funny thing, you know, you mentioned London. Well, I mean, London, in terms of cutting edge, amazing food scenes, Michelin stars, you know, taking Indian food and doing a different level of Indian food and just creativity, and it's incredible, right? And in the countryside, a lot of those Michelin star chefs in London have fled to these amazing little pubs in villages with 350 people, and you can have dinner at them. So Ireland and Scotland, what they have in common is it's organic is obvious. If
Right.
it's not organic, it's now what are you doing? You
Right.
know, if it's
Literal farm to table.
yeah, if it's not locally grown, if you don't know the name of the guy who raised the cow, you're a monster. Like literally, like everyone's like, oh, Joe showed up and he opened up the back of the truck and we picked this wild salmon or we picked this or this. So it's all that fresh and real, especially when your clients are traveling to these destinations. The second thing is a lot of these chefs maybe grew up in Ireland during tougher times, or maybe they grew up in Scotland and they want to experience something different, or same with Ireland. Maybe it was the boom, the Celtic Tiger, but they just still wanted to try something else out. And they went all over the world being great chefs. And they've taken that technique and those influences and brought them home. And I just think the creativity of what you see in Ireland and Scotland is pretty magnificent. Remember, you know, Angus beef, that's Scottish beef, when we talk about Dover sole, I mean, like it's one of the best seafood dishes around. There's lobster. And so I think the destinations really do get a bad rap. The food is just so damn good. And I think the value for money is also extraordinary.
So what's your favorite meal that you've had? And I'll let you do two. I don't usually allow two, but
Thank
since you
you.
have two destinations, what are your favorite meals that you've ever had? By the way, I asked someone this question yesterday at lunchtime, and I had to stop. My stomach
You're
got so
so
loud.
hungry.
It was
Yeah.
ridiculous. So,
I mean, I would say the best, so I'm going to go kind of a mid-range. I mean, come on, fish and chips are monumentally better and different than what you get here. It's just like I can't eat fish and chips in America. I've never found a place, and I always give it a try. Like, and they just don't hold a candle. It is just exquisite. Like, you'll go to these fish and chip places, and you're choosing like 4 or 5 different potential fish. Maybe cod or plaice or haddock or a number of other things, and it's just
it's
um,
happening again.
I mean, so I'll start there, and then I think I'm going to give a shout out to a specific chef because I think he's so emblematic of the best of what's happening on the food scene, and it starts with the fundamental pride in what the people of your destination produce, and it's Tom Kitchen, who's a chef in Edinburgh, and he's been an incredible influencer of other chefs who've opened their places. He has a Michelin star restaurant. He also has my favorite gastropub. And I think he just fundamentally gets it. And his staff and service have pride in the desk. And if it's an American guest, they don't just let the food speak for itself. They tell the story. They tell the story. And I think that is what when your clients travel, that's what they want. They want the story of why this grouse is special.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I
we're in the
think that's
memory business, man. It's not really the travel business.
that's right. And I joke around that the best meals at certain times of the year, like the fall, you can have something that walks, swims, and flies. You've hit the food trifecta, especially during game season. So it's just I think the food is extraordinary. I really do. One of my favorite aspects of my job.
I definitely totally agree. So I've loved asking that question. And then one of my other favorite things to talk about, obviously, into hotels, big time. There's nothing I like better than an amazing hotel room. So give me top two. Again, we can do one for each country. What are the most ridiculous hotel rooms?
So Ashford Castle has staterooms and suites that you wake up in the morning and you are a prince or a king or a princess. Like it's just that kind of magic, but with the most updated, beautiful, pristine bathrooms. Not like a 1980s cool castle bathroom, right? These things are, better than, Mandarin Orientals in Asia or peninsulas in Asia. Like they are just incredible. And I think that's what all these places would have in common, a little bit of history and wow and the view, but also that modern touch, which I like. Drummond Castle has great ones. Ballyfin, some of the rooms and suites at Ballyfin, which is one of the most exclusive properties in the world. Only 20 rooms in the middle of Ireland. You know, I love She Falls has a great suite that overlooks the actual falls. You open up your windows, and at night you're going to sleep to the sound of the falls. You know, the Tower Suite or the Royal Nagar at Glen Eagles are almost worth the trip alone. And as much as there is to do at Glen Eagles, just stay in those rooms and you've had a great trip. I mean, the hotel's that special. The Torridon, which is super remote, it's our most remote hotel. It's actually the northernmost celebrated hotel. Has some really beautiful crafted suites, and they're like $700 a night, which I know is not inexpensive, but it's also sometimes you're thinking world's best rooms and world's best suites. Oh, you must have to have a budget of $2,000 a night or 2,000. You don't. And so I think there's great value.
To us, what's like a hidden gem? Where are people not going that they really should be going?
You know, I feel like in terms of being an expert on your clients, it's letting them know that the checklist isn't always applicable to them. I think that, so my answer isn't necessarily, oh, they've got to go to Donegal, which is an amazing region of Ireland that very few people go to. It's the northwest corner, incredible scenic beauty, but not many hotels, not many people, right? It's just, but I just feel like people should be more open to just the adventure of travel. And then my other biggie is staying in some place for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
You know, we like almost at Celebrated are morally and ethically opposed to the one night stay unless it is playing a profoundly important logistical role, such as a last night before flying home from somewhere.
Right.
But 2 night stays are great. You're getting a taste of a place, but many times the difference between a 2 night stay and a 3 night stay or even a 4 night stay, you're having to have a real schedule. And with that real schedule, the delight and relaxing feel that travel should be often evaporates. And the ability to have a great pint at a pub or have this incredibly beautiful day and be out on a boat on the lakes of Killarney and not have to look at your clock because you got to be back for the next thing. And I think that makes a really big difference, that breath of fresh air, the time when you're in this whiskey shop or an antique shop, and also you have this incredibly engaging conversation with someone who feels like they're your long lost sister or brother. Oh, but you have to look at your watch, or your guide saying we have to leave. But you're having that once in a lifetime travel experience, which travel's all about. I think that's why we definitely have a bias at Celebrate. Is I'd rather people just hit 3 stops and hit them well than 4 or 5 stops and have gotten a taste.
Yeah.
You know?
I totally agree. And actually the concept of flexibility is something that, I'm doing a bunch of these interviews and I've spoken to a lot of my favorite partners, and it's something that I'm hearing over and over again from all of my destination management specialists, that if clients can give themselves a little bit of flexibility within their, within their trips, and then you can make the experience even more magical. And so that's a great takeaway for me.
The number one thing our guides would complain to Celebrated about is the trip on that day was overscheduled. But a lot of times the client, when they look at the proposal, will try to fit in more, or they'll try to set up a lot of dinner reservations in advance or a lot of things in advance. And what you've done is you've taken a driver guide who is extraordinary, and they're still going to be extraordinary, but you've taken away this incredible weapon they have, which is profound flexibility and finding the secret spot that is the awesome surprise.
Right.
Because there's now no time to find the awesome surprise. And our level of guide always has awesome surprises. So, and also when a driver guide is with the client for 2 or 3 days, as well as you know them, as well as we may have gotten to know them, they find out something.
Oh yeah.
They find out, like we have there's one crazy spot, like that is an engineering marvel in Scotland. It is completely over my head, but the driver guide really got to know the guy. And even though the guy was an accountant, he studied engineering at one point when he was in school. And that's all the client could talk about at the end of the trip was that magical engineering marvel moment. But that makes the point. If our guides can find an engineering marvel, like imagine what they can do when you just say, I'm really interested in pottery, and all of a sudden you're meeting one of the most world famous potters in Ireland. And so that's what can happen when trips are more flexible.
I totally agree. So sort of toward the wrapping up section, where is your next trip scheduled? Once we're released from our pod, where are you looking to go next?
Now, yeah. So here's the good news, and you see a smile on my face.
Yes.
Little Dix Bay has a very special place in our family's heart. Like one of our best trips we've ever taken, and it'll be there. We'll go next year, and what'll we do in the meantime? We'll find something else to do, and that's the beauty of travel, is this world has so much diverse magic to it. It's how much can we fit in the limited time that we get to be here.
Oh.
And I really, really believe that, the appreciation of that magic is going to be at a different level once we're allowed to leave our homes.
Oh, totally agree.
And that could lead to a lot better travelers too, and more efforts for sustainability when we travel, and really, treating these magical places the way they should be treated, with the right kind of clients, which are your kind of clients. So,
and your kind of clients, our mutual clients.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I've been talking today with Jonathan Epstein of Celebrated Experiences. Jonathan, thank you for joining us.
I'm so honored. Thank you for having me on. You really are so delightful to work with. And, in this business, it's not just about, you've sent lots of business. Yeah, you have, because you're a great travel advisor, but you're delightful to work with. And our team universally says that. And the
feeling is totally mutual.
But that's what we call the hotels. And we really say, you got to really take care of this one. It's so really, thanks for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you so much.